They've confessed it again. Their plans don't work even for the year 2030. The European Court of Auditors, ECA, is at risk of not achieving the EU's climate and energy goals for 2030, according to a report it published today. Achieving the EU's 2020 climate and energy targets was partly the result of external factors such as the impact of COVID-19 pandemic, which helped reduce emissions, the Court of Auditors said in its statement, which questions whether the EU, the European Union, can win the gamble of reducing greenhouse gas emissions by 55% compared to 1990 levels by the year 2030. Little evidence was found that action to achieve these targets will prove sufficient. The ECA special report concludes. The ECA found, among other things, a lack of transparency on how EU member states have achieved their national binding targets by making use of flexibility opportunities. Now, the contribution of some of them was not as expected, and in order to meet their targets, they resorted to other means, such as buying emission allowances or sharing of energy from renewable sources from member states that had exceeded their targets. Little information was found on the actual costs of achieving the targets for the EU budget, national budgets, and the private sector, and on the actions that actually contribute to achieving the targets. And as a result, it is not easy for citizens and other stakeholders to ascertain whether the European Union is pursuing its objectives in a cost-effective manner, nor to draw lessons from the 2030 target obligation. The ECA confirms that the EU is performing well compared to some industrialized countries in reducing greenhouse gas emissions. However, it does not account for its total emissions, which would be about a tenth higher if those caused by trade, international aviation, and shipping were included. Regarding the future and the highly ambitious goals for 2030, it is worrying that there are no indications that the available funding will be sufficient to achieve them. This is particularly true of private sector funding, which is expected to be significant. It's noted that the European Union committed to spend at least 30% of its budget for the period 2021 to 2027 in favor of climate action. This figure corresponds to around 87 billion euros a year, less than 10% of the total investment required to achieve the 2030 targets, which are estimated at around 1 trillion euros per year. The remaining investments are expected to come from national and private sources. We'll see what those private sources are. So this is from a Greek article I've translated for you. Please leave your comments. Thank you for your support. Please support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box below.